So recently I checked off something that had been on my bucket list ever since I started to play the violin. Playing violin at a wedding! Playing violin with a band was incredibly fun to do, but it was also quite different compared to how I usually learn and play music. I'll be honest, it was also quite frustrating at times. So I thought I'd share my experience on this with you and of course also show you a bit more footage of our performance. I'll talk about communicating with musicians who haven't had any classical training, how to figure out what to play, and how to write violin parts for a pop song. So let's get to it. So let's start out with something that could be frustrating if you're a violinist. There is no sheet music whatsoever. 90% of the time there is no sheet music for you. And that's kind of weird at first, because I've played in a string quartet and in a small orchestra, and they always give you sheet music, so you know exactly what to play and when to play it. So you have to be a bit smart about it. And that brings me to my second point. You, as a classically trained musician, are smart. Because you know music theory and thinking that will save your butt. You ask the lead singer, "Hey, in what key is this song?" The reply went something like this. Key? Most band musicians have no clue what time signatures, sharps, flats, keys, and all that stuff even is. So again, you'll have to figure it out on your own. Luckily for me, the band did know for most songs in what key they were playing it, and if they didn't know, I could simply Google that. So I looked up the key, how many sharps and flats are in that key, and I made sure to look up the chords and what notes were in the chords. And that's actually the first thing I did for every song. In a bit, I will tell you how I use that information to create violin parts for every song. Because number 3 is, you have to make up your own parts. This can be annoying, but also big fun at the same time. Everyone in the band knows what to play. And then there's you, with your tiny violin. Most pop songs don't have a violin part, so again, you'll pretty much have to figure out everything by yourself. But there's also a big freedom in that. A good thing here is that a violin is not a primary instrument. At least not in a band. In a band, a violin is not essential, but it adds flavor. You're like the sprinkles on a cake, not the icing. And although I was playing pretty simple stuff, the audience really liked it. So there you are. Also, a few songs we did had some very specific solos. I got those parts. For example, the harmonica in The Piano Man. The trumpet parts in The Ring of Fire. Or the trumpet solos in Little Talks. But when the band plays a song that has an actual violin part, you better make sure it's Scott Night Joe. Okay, so lastly, I will explain to you how I am writing violin parts for a pop song. So although I didn't entirely rely on sheet music, for a good part, I did. So I went out and I bought sheet music paper. So here are my notes for the song Piano Man by Billy Joel. So at the top, I write down the time signature and key signature. Then I divide each staff into measures. Above each measure, I write down the chord that's played during that measure. So, for example, the band is playing a C chord in the first measure of Piano Man. I know that during that measure I can safely play either a C, E or a G note. So I didn't do any melody here during the verse and chorus, but I was doing those harmonica solos. And when I want to create a melody or accompany part for the violin, what I do is listen to the song on either YouTube or Spotify, and then I take my phone and I open a tuner app. So once I start listening to the song, I start humming along with it. I hum a long note or a melody that goes with it. And then on my screen I can see what note I'm humming. And once I know that, I can write that note down on my sheet music paper. So that's how I do it. And then I play the song on my violin as well, and I make some adjustments when needed. And then I have an accompany part for the violin. And actually all parts I was playing were mostly very simple. But for pop music, that's fine. Plus, when you're playing easy parts, you're less likely to mess up. And you will mess up. I did too. But I corrected myself as soon as it happened, and nobody even noticed. So I think I shared a good chunk of information with you. We'll finish this video off with showing you some footage of the performance. And before we get to that, if you ever plan to join a band as a violinist, I hope that this video will have given you enough tips, tricks and advice to get you started. And before I forget, really consider getting an electric violin when you play in a band. For the sound engineer, it's easier to mix the sound of an electric instrument into the sound panel compared to an acoustic. 2, an electric violin hides tiny mistakes and scratches. And 3, it looks so freaking cool. I had a few people coming up to me, including the bride, telling me that my violin looked so amazingly cool and they had never seen something like it before. Sometimes looks matter. And on stage, they do. And my last tip for performing in a band is this: dress up, smile, and have fun. Act like you're having the time of your life. But once you're on a stage and the crowd is cheering, I bet you will. Thank you for watching, and here is some footage of us. Bye!